On today's episode of Exposure, Jill and I are joined by Payton Campbell and Rhianna Scott of the Coastal Watch Association in the Coastal Bend region of Texas. Rhianna is the executive director of the group, and Payton is the science director. And we're excited to have you both with us. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So why don't we start off with just the basics? What is Coastal Watch Association? What are the topics that you're really focused on? And what's sort of the background of the group?
Yeah, of course. So Coastal Watch Association, we originally were Ingleside on the Bay Coastal Watch Association. The founders saw the erosion and their backyards kind of disappearing. So it was community members that got together and said, hey, like, what's going on? And this organization and started fighting industry for transparency, permit watching, just kind of making sure that the community is aware of what's going on and has a voice. Payton, I don't know if you want to expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, so it started with a seawall degradation study. And so basically they deepened the channel in front of Ingleside for industrial ship traffic. And because of all that increased ship traffic, they noticed their seawall was degrading at a faster rate than it should have been. And it was because of all that increased large ship traffic coming through the channel right in front of their community. And yeah, and it kind of started there, and they partnered with the local universities and really focused on a data research driven approach to these environmental problems that they were recognizing in their community.
So can I ask if that includes like community science, engaging the community in the research as well? Because we've done that here for a long time, and I just think it's so powerful. Do you agree?
Yeah. I think that was kind of one of the incentives to change from Ingleside on the Bay Coastal Watch to just Coastal Watch Association, because we expanded not only our reach, but also our communications front. Instead of just focusing on the research side of it, we then started to communicate those findings to our community members. And that was part of the incentive or the idea to change from just Ingleside on the Bay to Coastal Watch to kind of encompass our whole community and not just one aspect of it.
We incorporated town halls and stuff like that, community meetings, so that it gives the community the opportunity to answer or ask questions, and we can, best of our knowledge, or direct them to a space that will give them the answers that they're looking for. And I don't think that they had that previously. There was a lot of unknowns, and they didn't understand why and what was going on until a group like us came in. And TCE, which is Texas Campaign for the Environment, they have also come in and helped out and provided some information as well. So the community is a very big part of our organization. We like working with them. We're in the community a lot, just doing everyday things when we can to get to know them. So when we do have fights or permits, we're walking in and we can actually say, oh, hi, how are you doing today? How are your kids, or how are your grandparents? We actually know them.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. It's so important.
Now that original shipping, I'm just curious, was that like import, export shipping industry, or was that tied to a specific industry?
Right adjacent to the community are the number one and number two crude oil export companies in North America. Huh. And so when this city was originally founded, there was a naval base on that property. And so that kind of spurred on the community. It was really good for the community's growth. And then when the naval base shut down, another company came in to do crude oil storage and export. And it's grown since then. And yeah, the adjacent company is the number one crude oil exporter. They're called Enbridge. And then right next to them is the number two, which I think they're called Gibson Energy. Yes, Gibson. And so that's quite a bit of the ship traffic. There's also a Cheniere, which is a large LNG facility right down the way. There's OxyChem and Chemours, which are they make chemicals for PVC for Chemours, and there's also ArcelorMittal, which is a steel facility. So there's just a ton of industry right there along the channel, and so there's tankers coming in
all the time,
every couple of minutes,
right.
Really. If you go out there, you'll just see them coming through all day.
You can hear them. Actually, You can hear them inside houses.
Yeah,
you can hear the hum.
One of our members, every time they go by, her internet cuts off because the ship is so large. So her internet will go out while they're passing by.
Or phones, like we've had phone conversations. The phone will drop because hold on, a ship is going by.
Well, and I can't help but hear Chemours and petrochemicals. So you're in that fight as well, meaning do you like kind of a watchdog for new petrochemical facilities being built? And also, do you monitor Chemours and other petrochemical facilities in your region to see if they're, I guess partly I want to say, is there any air monitoring is done or water sampling, or how do you, if you do, monitor Chemours and help protect the community?
We do monitor the permits, very heavy on air quality, water, and any type of expansion that they're trying to do. So right now we have currently 13. Are we still working on 13?
Right, yeah.
13 permits in the region that we are actively watching and fighting. We were actually having a conversation about how we can watch TCEQ and just refresh it and it pulling up new permits in our area. And then so what we do is a new permit comes in, we usually send it over to our science guy over here. He analyzes it. And then we also have someone that used to work for TCEQ, breaks it down. We send it out to our members who can use it as comments and encourage them to say, hey, this is what's going on in your backyard. Comment about it, request a meeting, request for more information. So we try to help them with that.
So when you say permits, just for folks who aren't familiar, so say, as an example, Chemours, and so they might want to expand and they want to have a permit that increases the amount of maybe volatile organic or carcinogenic air pollution that can be emitted into the air. Is that right? Things like that?
Yeah. So the TCEQ, sorry, we'll try not to use acronyms.
Yes,
they're the Texas Commission of Environmental Quality. They're the regulatory agent that's responsible for Texas for air and water quality permits. And so, what happens is whenever they want to either renew a permit or get a brand new permit, or what we've been seeing lately is they're renewing permits with amendments.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically what that means is they're saying, well, we're already emitting this much into the air. Now we want to emit even more. So it's basically a permit for air emissions, for pollution, and for water pollution, for water quality.
Who was it that we just saw that wanted the amendment because they were getting fined?
So Cheniere is there's 6 permits from just Cheniere alone, which is the large LNG facility here. They have 3 trains, which has nothing to do with locomotives. It's they're like
pipelines.
Well, the train is the facility to make their product. So to make their LNG, it's the start to stop of that process, and they have basically 3 carbon copies of that process. So they have 3 times the production of one of these. So they have 3 trains of production right now. Their existing permit, they want to amend to add more emissions because they were just recently fined. And so instead of limiting their emissions to adhere to their original permit, they want to expand their current air emissions so that they don't get any further fines. And then they have 4 more trains of production they're wanting to build, which are another 3 permits. And so they're basically going to not just double, but 2.5 times their existing emissions is what they're trying to do right now.
So your role in this for the community would be you find out about these permits, these situations, and then you alert the community, and then they have the opportunity to submit comments, sharing their concerns. And so I'm just saying, I think that's an incredible service. Thank you for that. It really is, because I mean, I'm living in the most heavily fracked area of Ohio. And Stuart knows too, like he's from Pennsylvania, but he comes here and he's just like, it's everywhere. He can't believe it. But it's so easy for these facilities to get a permit to suddenly be able to pollute more. And we just can't keep up. So I just think it's an incredible service that you're providing.
Yeah. The problem with it is they're only required to post like a small little comment in the local newspaper.
It doesn't even have to be the newspaper. It just has to be a public setting. So we have found like a notice will go in just the library. So it gets missed because it wasn't published anywhere like big.
Yeah. So for regular community members, they just, I mean, in general, they don't have the capacity to see all this coming. And so, yeah, it's, before I started with this organization, I had no clue what was happening, because you're just it's easy to be ignorant, not in a bad way. I mean, it's just you just don't know.
You just grow up with it. You grow up with it, and it's something that you're used to. Like I grew up on what the city calls Industry Row in Corpus Christi. So my backyard literally was a whole bunch of smokestacks and rice grain, what turbines and stuff like that. And people coming in and saying, oh, family members got cancer. Oh, it's because your literally backyard, it's all these harmful things going into the soil, the water you're drinking, and you don't think about it because it's your normal life.
I had the exact same reaction when I started working with Jill. I was on these calls and I was learning about all this work, and I just said, we have to start a podcast. That's like literally why we started this podcast, because I was learning all of these things, and I said, the general public has no idea about any of this. And for all of the great people that are doing all of this great work in advocacy and this sort of space that we all find ourselves in, there isn't a lot of like public facing information that really gets out there and permeates through the layman. And so I think it's great. If for no other reason, if I lived in your area, I would follow you guys just to stay up to date on what was going on. I mean, it's really an important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anybody really did that aspect before the organization opened.
Yeah, definitely not in San Patricio County. We're right on the border of Nueces and San Patricio County. And so Nueces County, which is where Corpus Christi is, they did have some organizations that would fight different permits, but in San Patricio County, not really much was going on until
I think it's our approach is different as well. We're very science and research and data driven. So when we do speak out and when we do put information out, these are the facts. It's not really an opinionated comment. It is a factual comment, so that when somebody does come back at us, well, here are the facts. We're not telling you, oh, we hate industry, so we're going to fight you. It's like, no, this is what you're doing to the community. This is what you're putting out. And we need you to be more transparent and scale back. So I think that's like one of the biggest things with our organization is how we approach these permits and industry and how we give it out to the community.
What is I mean, you kind of did explain this a little bit, but what is the environment you're in? I mean, what's the community like? Is it mostly a population of people who work in these industries, or what's the lay of the land there?
So Ingleside and Ingleside on the Bay I know, at least for me growing up, it was a retirement community. A lot of people come in, especially like from up north, to come and settle down and just enjoy the view and the environment in the community. It's a very small community. high schools, senior class is 44 kids sometimes. I mean, it's a very small community. Recently, I still feel that it's older retired community.
Yeah, there's younger people moving in.
Right.
You'll see, but not very many of them work for industry. In fact, if you go into that area at the wrong time, like around 3 o'clock when there's shift changes happening,
yeah, don't do that.
there's just lines of cars leaving all these industrial facilities. I mean, they fill up the whole highway mostly going back to either Portland or Corpus Christi, which are the two larger cities nearby.
And how far of a commute is it? How far from those?
If they're coming in from Corpus, it's probably a good 30, 40-minute drive, depending on what side of town you're from. And there's only one way in, one way out. That's one of the big things that we talk about safety wise.
Yeah.
You have to cross the Harbor Bridge, which is this massive bridge, and heaven forbid there's an accident on it or something like that. And you're going to be stuck in traffic for an hour or two because there's no other way in or out to get to this location. I mean, I guess you could go all the way around.
Yeah, you could go around, then you're looking at like an hour and a half drive. Right. But as far as into Ingleside, there's only one major highway. So it's a pretty big choke point there.
Now, what about things like farming or like coastal sort of, like, are there beach houses? Are there beaches there?
Yeah, so Ingleside on the Bay, which is right next to that Enbridge location, which is where our organization started. There's a large bluff there. In fact, it's one of the tallest elevations in South Texas. But then under that bluff, it goes down then into the beachfront. And so that's where you'll find the homes on the stilts and beachfront property. So you have a mix. You have regular homes up on the bluff, and then you have like beach homes down at the beach level. And they're raised up off the ground for tidal surges and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a major concern for the community or for you, or is it just in general, just the industrial landscape that you're in?
There is the industry. There is a major concern that we are currently focused on, which is an ammonia plant that's being proposed to be built on that oil export property. And it's right next to the community. It's less than a mile from the community and less than 2 miles from the nearest primary school. And so that, I think, is probably one of our top concerns right now. It's what's called a blue ammonia plant.
Okay.
And so that's probably one of our biggest concerns right now.
And like, for what is blue ammonia? I mean, it's a blue ammonia plant, but for folks who don't know, can you tell us what that is for?
So there's a whole bunch of different colors of ammonia now. Blue ammonia means that they're going to take methane or natural gas, and then they take that and they extract the hydrogen out of the methane, and then the carbon dioxide that comes with that, they then will pipe and put under the ground. So, that's one option. Another option is what's called enhanced oil recovery. And that's basically where they go into an old oil field. They pump the CO2 in there to get more oil and gas out. It's like inflating a deflated balloon, basically, is the idea behind it, to get more of the oil and gas that's been left behind. And then, so there's that process. That's what makes it blue. And then the end product is the same kind of ammonia as any other facility would make. This one is anhydrous ammonia. So it's not ammonium nitrate like you see in places that have like blown up over incidents, but it's still very dangerous if it comes out and you inhale it. It's extremely toxic to people, to fish.
For the community, what are the major concerns for a blue ammonia facility like this?
I would say the guaranteed result is the emissions that come out. No matter what, whether there's no accidents or anything, the emissions are a guaranteed thing that's going to happen. They're going to be emitting ammonia, H2S, volatile organic compounds. H2S is an extremely deadly gas. If they get into your lungs, they immediately seize up and you can die. Now, this is going to be ambient levels, so you're just going to be inhaling this, and so there's long-term health effects associated with that. With all of these emissions that they're going to be doing, and we're already seeing where we are. As of now, the EPA has shown that our airshed is over the national ambient air quality standards of 9.0. They were lowered from 12 in 2024 down to 9 because it's been shown that you have increased asthma risk. Anyone with respiratory issues or cardiovascular issues have a increased mortality rate based on this particulate matter that's being emitted. Basically, they're little tiny particles that are 2.5 microns.
Smaller than a strand of hair, just picture that.
Well, there's actually, the EPA sent out a diagram. You see like a strand of hair. You see these small circles that are PM10, and then on those circles are tiny little circles. Those are PM2.5. So they're extremely minute, like very, very tiny. But they're solid particles. And what happens is you inhale them in your lungs, and they irritate your lungs and have even been shown to cross through into your blood. There's a recent study that came out showing that they act kind of like plaque in your arteries, and they can accumulate and cause increased risk for stroke and for heart attacks. So yeah, I mean that's the first issue, is that it's a guaranteed thing.
Next to the primary school where everybody's all the little ones.
Yeah, and it's less than 2 miles from the primary school, and it's also southeast of the primary school, which is the predominant wind direction. So it's directly downwind of the primary school and all of Ingleside. And so all of those emissions will be going right through that community.
You never spoke about your air monitors.
I didn't speak about it. So we do have a network of air monitors that we have non-regulatory air monitors. We have 9 of them throughout, 8 of them in San Patricio, 7 of them in San Patricio County, 2 of them in Nueces County. And they pick up things like the volatile organic compounds, the PM2.5, the PM10, ozone, nitrogen dioxide, and sulfur dioxide. And so these are all things that have national ambient air quality standards associated with them. The main 2 that are issues, in our opinion, based on the trends we see, are the PM2.5 and then the volatile organic compounds, which we see pretty significant spikes of those, especially at night. It seems like that's when they do most of their emitting, when people are sleeping and no one's there to see it. So
that's the same here when they frack. They use silica sand, which is never supposed to be airborne, highly toxic. And they frack at night, and you can just see the plume of sand in the air. But just for people who don't know, PM2.5, that's particulate matter, right? Those are those particles you're talking about that get into the lungs and can cause so much trouble.
So there's PM10 and there's PM2.5. The 10 and the 2.5 are the size of the particles. So 10 is anything 10 microns or less, and then the 2.5 is 2.5 microns or less. So it has to do with the size of the particles. Ironically, the larger the particle, the less dangerous. The smaller the particle, the easier it is to kind of get in your body and stay in your body, and also go through your lungs and into your bloodstream.
Wow. That's why we're seeing that uptick in asthma in our kids and the youth. And then we have members, like part of our founding members, like they're older kids because they grew up in Ingleside, are now having health issues that they hadn't seen before.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you have statistics or data on the health issues in the area compared to other areas.
So there is no major hospital in Ingleside. The nearest hospital is in Corpus Christi, that 30 minutes away. Heaven forbid that bridge is not blocked off. So San Patricio, like we aren't able to find data that is relevant just to San Patricio. So we're doing a study that will provide, hopefully, the data before industry really picked up in San Patricio, which was 2015, and before that, and then we'll compare it to what we're seeing 2016 and to now, to date. And hopefully we'll see, I guess, what the disparities are. We can't say, oh, this industry is doing this, but we can see what the disparities are once we get that information and compare it to what it was before.
And where the health needs are.
Yeah.
For folks that don't know, what is this ammonia for? Like, what's the industrial application of it?
So supposedly it would be for fertilizer, but the idea behind it is that it is not only can it be used for fertilizer, but it can also be used as a stable hydrogen carrier. And so it would be another way to sell hydrogen energy throughout the world. But they're selling it as like a green alternative, and it's just not. Between the actual production process where you are emitting and using natural gas to make the ammonia, and then the shipping of the ammonia, and then once it gets to its source, then you have to crack it again to take that hydrogen back out. Very energy intensive. It's a net energy waste. But it's a way for the fossil fuel industry to stay relevant and try to stay alive and look green, even though it's very much not.
The interesting part with that, though, is the company that's coming in is a Norwegian company, which we have partners in the European countries. It's not allowed. They are not allowed to have facilities or processes like this over there because of the pollution. It's not, their regulations are harsher, so they cannot do that over in Norway. So they have to come over here and do it. It's
a partnership between Enbridge, that they're a Canadian oil company. They're the ones that are the number one North American oil exporter that's right next to the community, and Yara, which is the Norwegian fertilizing company. And so together they're forming an entity called Yaren, is the idea behind this blue ammonia plant.
Yaren is the name of the
ammonia plant.
Yeah, it's the partnership between the two companies.
It gets even more confusing because then the facility is called Ingleside Clean Ammonia Partners.
Wait, say it again.
3 different names.
Clean Energy Partners is part of their name for this ammonia facility.
I think that's like their business name, and then that's what all the permits are under. But then it's Project Yaren is what the whole thing has been. They had a social media person coming, or not social media, like a
community engagement. So she would go in and stock the community pantry. She would provide bikes to kids in the community, or offering plants. You want to tell how many plants they destroyed without the city's knowledge before they got their hands slapped?
Yeah. So that the bluff that I was talking about, the reason it's still there is they have these 100-plus-year-old oak trees all along that bluff. And those oak trees have been around, like I said, more than 100 years. And that's caused the bluff not to erode from storms and weather events. And they came in and they basically clear cut the entire area for this future ammonia plant with no permits, no permission. When the city found out, they ended up finding them. But I mean, by then it's,
the damage is already done.
The damage was already done. And so, you can actually, we've got Google images where you can see the before and after, and it looks like this apocalyptic wasteland after. There's just black stuff and pits, and it's pretty awful.
Why
did they do that? I mean, what?
The land so they could start building.
They
needed to clear the land, and they didn't get the proper permitting because they knew it was going to be an issue. These oaks have been there, like he had said, 100 years plus, and that's very important to this community. And they just, we're going to do it, and then ask for forgiveness.
Yes.
And we have to get Yeah, they got fined for that. But again, the damage had already been done. No matter what the fine was, you're not going to get those trees back. And it doesn't matter how many trees you hand out to the community, you're not going to get those trees back.
What is your organization's relationship with these companies? I mean, do you interface with them at all?
We do interface with them, and we try to remain cordial is the best way to put it. Like I said previously, it's not that we are against industry. It's more about transparency and regulations. Keep the community informed. Just be mindful of what you're doing to this community. You're coming in and you're taking from them, and there's no return.
No.
Whether it's, even if you're still trying to provide some type of incentive, like I was talking about with the community pantry or whatever the case may be, at the end of the day, you're taking from this community, and it's their health, and they deserve to know what's going on. So that's our biggest thing is communication, transparency, regulatory. Other than that, I don't think they'd see us as very friendly, even though we try to be very friendly. Again, it's just basic, I feel basic human rights. What's going on in your backyard? It's not like we're asking for anything big.
What about local politicians, local policymakers?
We have a fairly good relationship with the Ingleside City Council. In fact, the reason that this project yard really hasn't been developed is they need a special use permit. The property's not zoned for ammonia production, and they've gone up to the city council 2 times now, and one time it was denied, and the second time it didn't. They made a motion. Yeah, they made a motion to approve it. No one seconded the motion, and then it died. And a lot of that, I think, was due to the community outpouring that happened. I mean, we had hundreds of people show up to make public comment, or even just show up as a body and be present in that space. And they had to move to the local high school auditorium because there were so many people at the first meeting that it overflowed both the primary area and the secondary area, and they had an outdoor area, and so it was just a mess. And
the community was very upset with that because they felt like a lot of them left because it was raining and cold that day.
Very cold, yeah. And
so they felt like they were pushed out and they couldn't voice their concerns, so they weren't heard. So the city, they thankfully the city did listen, and they provided a bigger space, and there were issues with that, but the attempt was made.
Yeah. And
that space, he said it was the auditorium, it was full. Granted, it was full from both sides, but on the other side, industry side, they were basically told, you're going to show up.
Yeah, they were employees. They were industry employees that all showed up. Or they were part of this.
It was the boat captains, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and then you're talking about voices.
Yeah. Voices for Clean Energy in the Coastal Bend or something like that.
Yes.
They all showed up in shirts, but they're a nonprofit that was founded by
both Yara and
Enbridge. And so, and so they paid people to come out. Well, I don't know if they were paid.
Technically they are paid. It is a nonprofit paid for Enbridge and Yara, so they did pay them.
So that was, and as we went through, they began to dwindle less and less, and less people were making comments as they could see the impact that the community was voicing. We're very fortunate. We had religious leaders come out. We had school leaders come out.
We had some of the school children come out. People came out of the woodworks that you wouldn't normally think about. So it just shows the community unity in this one aspect of life. It was actually a really cool thing to witness.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that they were saying? Like, what were some of the concerns that you were hearing over and over again?
A lot of the concern is that this company hadn't released any sort of emergency response plan.
Right.
Like, what would happen if there was an incident? And over, they're like, well, we've run the models and it should be fine, but that won't happen until we get further along. And it's just like, no, we need to know, because if anything happened right where it's at, there would only be one way in and out of the city.
It's a volunteer fire department.
It's a volunteer fire department. And also that carbon dioxide pipeline that I was talking about earlier that they would use for the sequestration, if that ruptures, which just happened in Satartia, Mississippi, recently in the last year or two, basically all that CO2, it asphyxiates people, it makes them ill as it replaces the oxygen, and then also any gas-powered vehicles will not function because they can't get enough oxygen to fire. And so emergency response vehicles in Satartia, Mississippi rolled up to help these people, died, and all the firefighters had to get out and run on foot to try to pull people out of this plume. And the same thing would happen here if anything like that occurred. So that was a concern. The ammonia is a concern.
The fact that there's already enough industry in their backyard and they're already feeling the effects of it. And it's like, why would you want to add some more, especially right next to children? I think that's the biggest part right there is why would you want to put this facility next to a primary school? And then hand them these red backpacks and say, here's your tape, here's your tarp, here's a bottle of water, here's some towels, something happens, you're good to go. You have enough to protect these children. And that's just laughable. What is that going to do for these children? What is it going to do? Like, and these families can't get to them. So, that's the biggest concern I heard.
My mind, I'll just have to say, instantly goes to when I heard it was a Norwegian company. I have a connection with a fantastic journalist who is with like the national broadcasting kind of like company in Norway, and they came and I helped them do a documentary and several different pieces about fracking here. I just know he would be very interested to hear what you've told me today. So
we love talking to journalists and letting them know our story and connecting them with the community. It's not just us, it's go talk to the community, go listen to what they're saying.
Yeah.
This reminds me, this is like one of the big disconnects that I think the general public has, where a lot of people just don't make the connection between fracking and petrochemicals. So you have this ammonia plant, there's maybe some loose understanding that it's connected somehow to oil, but how big is the actual fracking industry down there? Do you get a lot of it from the Permian Basin? Does a lot of it come from Appalachia as the feedstock for these like industrial plants? And do you find that the general public basically hasn't really made that connection yet?
Yeah, they do their best to kind of put a pleasant face on it, and they call it natural gas instead of methane, or LNG instead of liquid natural gas. So, they use these different words to try to kind of greenwash it a little bit. But as far as the feedstock in Texas, most of the fracking is done in the Eagle Ford Trend and then the Permian Basin. And the Eagle Ford's pretty close to where we're at. It's south of San Antonio, and so is where most of the natural gas come from, and then also the Permian Basin up near Midland. And so we have pipelines coming all through our community already that carry crude and natural gas, and from those two sources mainly. There's also some stuff in East Texas as well, but that usually goes to Houston. But yeah, we usually get a lot of the Eagle Ford play, and then the Permian Basin is where that comes from. And I mean, growing up here, everyone knows like this is an oil and gas town. There's refineries everywhere. They get that. But these new products that they're trying to make, and it keeps getting more and more and more. And at some point, our air quality is not going to be able to sustain it. And unfortunately, what happens is they're not looking at these cumulative effects when they go through the permitting process. They only look at that specific facility and what the air quality is right now. So you could have, when we do have like 6 permits going through right now, or actually I think 8 air permits, none of them recognize the other permit as being in effect yet. So they only look at current conditions. And so not recognizing that cumulative effect, it just, it's going to exacerbate our current air quality. Or
You're
degrade
talking
our
about
current air
just
quality.
basic air. We're literally in a water crisis right now.
Yeah.
A water crisis to where we're worried we're going to run out of water next month as a community.
What do you mean? Your town that you're
Yes, we are
Well,
literally like running out of water
So
apparently.
as of next month, we will probably go on like stage 1 drought restrictions.
I think it's
Or stage 4.
It's stage 4.
Stage 4 drought restrictions. And as of right now, you can't water your lawns. Luckily, we've had some rain recently, but the drought's been so bad because like all of our reservoirs are down to like 5 or 10% capacity right now. And the main reason for that is we use about 150% of our water compared to the refresh rate. And of our water use, over 50% of it is for industry. And as these other companies come on, they're going to need more water and more water. And
so now we're in desal
so
facilities.
desalinization facilities are now being proposed, which some of them are trying to go in our inner harbor system. And it's just, there's been multiple studies that have shown that's a horrible idea for our bay's health, because when you pump that much brine, it's like the salty discharge back into that water. The water does not circulate fast enough to where you're going to make this really salty environment where life can't survive in our bay systems. And that's where most of our fish population comes through. We're behind the barrier island. And that's the redfish, like multiple fish populations, crab, sea turtles, oysters, all reproduce in the bay system because it's safer for them, and the mix of the salty and the fresh water is ideal for their breeding conditions. And then once they mature, they go back out into the Gulf. If they do this in our inner bay system, it could create an ecological disaster for the health of all of our fish species and our invertebrates and everything. There is one being proposed that will take water from the Gulf and put it back in the Gulf. We're fairly optimistic about that one. But it's more expensive.
And also very energy intensive.
But my mind is like, if you need a solution, get rid of the industry, or make them find their own water. What I mean, like, I don't understand. Make them pay for it.
That's a big issue that we're trying to, I guess, enlighten people in the community with.
In fact, there's a petition right now that they're trying to get something on the ballot. It's like a fair water agreement, I think is what it's called. And they're trying to get it on the ballot so that industry will have to pay, just like citizens do, for an increased cost for when we're in drought conditions. Because right now, they are not paying any more, and they have no restrictions like the citizens do. Yeah. Industry has no restrictions, and they're paying a fraction of what citizens are paying right now.
I was just telling Payton, like at my house, I literally have a conservancy like on my water. I'm only allowed X amount of water that will come into my home, and it's done through the community. I have no control over it. And then if I go over that amount, I'm going to pay a fine, and it will automatically attach to my mortgage bill. I don't have any say over it. So I'm like, why aren't we doing that to industry?
I've heard of this in fracking. I've heard of it with data centers. I've heard of it with these types of industries, how despite being in drought conditions, they are always prioritized in terms of their water needs. So we're all kind of in this position where we see these problems because we're working on them all the time. The response is always, but economics, but jobs, but we all sort of live with these products. And so I'm curious, like, what is your response to that sort of line of argument? I mean, how do we reconcile these problems with the need of our society for these things?
I feel like it goes back to the transparency and communication. There has to be a middle ground. Like the water crisis here is a big thing because we make the jet fuel, and so Houston is a major hub. Dallas is a major hub. They get that from our port. So if the port decides or has to go into curtailment, that's going to be a big issue, not just for the state of Texas, for travel industry. So it's larger than just our community. And so at the end of the day, it's where was this communicate? Like we started doing the Mary Rose pipeline years ago to help with this. We knew there was a problem. So why are we just now panicking? So it's the transparency and the communication need to be improved between not just industry and city, local government, but the community. The community should have a say like, hey, we're going to be running out of water. We're at 15%. What are we going to do about this? They should be able to have those questions and have them answered in a very legitimate way. This is our strategy. This is what we're planning on doing. And that has not happened. And now we're in this situation where it's going to cause a real problem for more than just the city of Corpus Christi. So again, I think I just go back to transparency and communication and finding that middle ground of we understand that this is a need, but we need to regulate what it's doing to the community around it.
Yeah, and there definitely needs to be a balance between. I mean, if there's going to be industry, they need to do what they can to reduce emissions. There's processes and scrubbers and things that they could do to limit the amount of emissions that are going into our airshed. It's just it costs money, and so at some point it's going to get to where they're not going to be voluntary. They're going to have to do it. But if they want to keep producing more in our community, but there has to be a balance. Right now, we're going out of balance. Mm-hmm. Industry is definitely more important to the city. At least some people think that. Yeah, it's definitely favored more than just the regular citizens. It needs to definitely be more balanced. I would prefer our citizens have be more favored than industry, but and realistically,
it's the communities that are already not doing well. It's in your Hillcrest is the community that is known to have multiple disparities. They are a community who are not well off, and so they're fighting for the community right now. Nobody is listening to them, and the families have been in this community for generations, and homes that they've lived in, they grew up in.
They've had multiple, like between the highway construction, the industrial growth in their area. It's just they'll put it in areas where people can't fight back. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what they try to do, and it's awful.
But I just want to clarify. You said nobody is listening to the community in Hillcrest, but aren't you? Are you listening? Yes. So thank you.
There are people listening and amplifying those voices. So it's not that nobody, but
I should say the people of power. Mm-hmm. That's more of the right thing to say. While we collaborate with Hillcrest, we work primarily in San Patricio. And we have partnered with other groups in Nueces County to get Hillcrest on spotlight. They've done multiple news conferences. They've been to every city council meeting, basically begging the city council to not approve these processes.
And that community is where the desalinization facility as well. So it's awful.
Well, I just want to say I brought that point up about you're listening to them because from outside, I'm saying thank you. I appreciate you. This conversation has been, I've learned a lot, and it also makes me want to stay connected. And so I just, we don't have a ton of time today, but I would just like to ask if you'd be willing to join us again and reach out if there's anything that you think we could do to support, but also just I'd love to reconnect and keep following what's happening there. And I'll pray about the water issue. I mean, there's so many issues, but that's just so alarming, and I feel for you, and I don't know what else to say except that I just praying that, I don't know, rain. I mean, that the industry will, like, somebody will make them.
Yes.
I've believed for a long time that like water is the canary in the coal mine. Like once you become a society that doesn't respect water, you have lost the plot, because that is like human life 101 is clean water. And if you are lucky enough to have water under your feet and you destroy it, you've just lost your way. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you think is important to cover, that's on your radar, that you're working on right now outside of the ammonia plant?
Another project we're working on is the carbon dioxide pipelines. Not only were they wanting to use that blue ammonia facility, they're also wanting to tie into multiple industries to get that CO2 and pipe it like in a 64-mile pipeline through our community, through Portland's community, Taft, which is another small town, and then down through Corpus Christi. That's another fight that we're starting up, and we're trying to combat, because the same risks for the CO2 pipeline is that like happened in Satartia, Mississippi. Any sort of rupture can be deadly to those surrounding communities.
We're working on Donnell Point, which is trying to preserve an indigenous area that the Port of Corpus Christi owns. So we are working with multiple indigenous groups throughout the community to help preserve this land and the artifacts that are found on it. We have some PFAS studies that we're doing.
Yeah,
I feel like
so
we've got a lot going on.
kind of going back to the OxyChem thing that you mentioned earlier in the Chem Wars, we are talking with our local university to get a study done on the water supply water, the discharge water, and then soil samples for forever chemicals, because that particular facility does have forever chemicals that are not tested for regularly. And so we would have to specifically look for those and also what's called like a bioaccumulation study, where they look at like large fish and test to see if they have accumulated these toxins in their fat, because we eat those fish here. And the only thing you really hear about is mercury. And so you're like, oh, well, if the mercury levels aren't high, then they're safe. Well, not necessarily. And so we are starting that as well. As far as how people can help.
We're always looking for any type of help, whether it's, hey, this is what worked for us in this fight. Information is always great. We're always looking for information. We're always looking for what we call treasure money. And it's not even for staffing, it's to get these studies that we're doing. We have 4 projects right now that we're working on for data to give back to the community.
And the legal fights as well, the contested case hearings that we like, the legal process to fight these in court, they are not cheap. Even though we're using environmental lawyers, they cut us a good deal because they care about what they're doing. It's still not cheap at all. And you're going against these like large corporations. In fact, the most recent hearing I saw, you had, I think, like 6 lawyers on the industry side, as well as the state of Texas on the industry side, testifying against us. So, and then on our side, we just had our small team of 3 lawyers. And so but even that, it costs. And so
the education portion of it,
the education.
community education, that they time and resources into that alone.
We're fortunate that we have some donors that regularly give us funds, but we're always on the lookout for philanthropists and other organizations that want to help, whether through information, shared strategies, or financial benefits. I mean, whatever we can get.
Yeah, I mean, our organization has grown strictly from just fighting permits to studies, all kinds of studies, water studies, working with
Education.
the local university and their professors, working with UT Arlington.
They're helping expand our air monitoring program. So we're hoping to get 30 more air monitors with UT Arlington's help all throughout San Patricio and Nueces County.
Yes.
So that's a project we're working on as well.
If you ever have a moment, look at Air Alliance Houston. We work with them. Their air monitoring system. That's who we want to be when we grow up.
Yeah.
They're amazing. They're great.
Yeah.
We work a lot with them. So
yeah, in fact, we had an EPA grant with them that let us purchase some replacement monitors and was supposed to help launch a community engagement campaign, and unfortunately it got cut under the new administration with the Doge cuts.
But I also would like to ask if you have a social media presence, so that's some way just people could support just by sharing your
following us. That would be fantastic.
Absolutely. It's just Coastal Watch Association. You can find us if you Google it. It should Instagram, LinkedIn.
Okay.
We're starting TikTok channels and YouTube. So
we're revamping our website so it's a little bit more user friendly, and you can find education and what we're doing and help join in the fights. We're revamping all of that.
Well, I love what you guys are doing. Keep us posted on the progress of particularly the ammonia facility. I think I'm interested in following that.
It's just they've kind of gone quiet for now.
Okay. It's like that uncomfortable quiet. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing over there?
Yeah.
Like it's like makes you a little uneasy.
So I mean, but they're still pushing their permits. So we don't think they've gone away. They haven't given up.
They're just like I said, the sleeping giant. Like they're not letting the community know what's going on. They have their socials, their community engagement person is no longer visual at all. We have not heard from her, seen from her. I don't even know if she's around anymore, if she still has her job, because they've gone that quiet. And again, it's a little nerve-wracking, like, okay, what are you thinking over there? What are you doing?
And that's the problem is, these permits, they can just keep renewing, like you're talking about. They can renew them and not have any plans really, and just kind of hold it until the right time, I guess, for them.
Yes.
So.
Well, a lot of times it seems like companies, they're often playing the long game. And unfortunately, what happens is a community will become incredibly engaged in the beginning. They'll have some wins, and then everyone gets sort of exhausted or busy with life. And that's when they come back.
100%. Do we understand
that? Yeah, we're around, and we're not going to let that happen. So
we try to find fun ways. I tell the team all the time,
get people fired up again.
Like we are constantly asking them to do things. So there's times where I tell them, like, you know what, just go hang out with the community, bring them lunch, go bring them breakfast, go bring them a drink or something. Give back. Don't ask them for a thing. Just tell them thank you and we appreciate you. And here, enjoy a meal on us. Just because we do ask a lot from the community. And we want to get to know them and stuff. So we try very hard to make sure we're not always just asking for something so they don't get fatigued, because I know we get fatigued. So we do try to give back and just let them know that we appreciate them too.
So good.
Well, thank you both for joining us. And like Jill said, we'd love to have you back, and good luck with everything. Sounds like you guys are doing amazing work.
Yeah, I'd love to come back.
I'd love to come back.
Just
let us know when y'all want us back, and we'll hop back on with y'all.
Thank you both so much. It's been wonderful meeting you. Appreciate you. Peace. Bye.